So this session is now being recorded. Dr. Bhat, welcome. And we're all looking forward to your talk on sitting disease and neat solutions for weight loss. Go ahead.
Hello everybody, I am Dr. Naras Bhat from Concord, California, from San Francisco Bay Area, and I thought it would be very useful for me to discuss sitting disease and NEAT, refer to non-exercise activity thermogenesis solution for weight loss. By the way, I am one of the very few board certified specialists in obesity medicine, and we have an obesity medicine weight loss clinic here in Concord, California. And one of the findings that we have is that very many people are not able to lose weight in spite of reducing their caloric intake and going to gym for exercise. And when we did their metabolic testing, we found out that their metabolism is low. And then furthermore, we noticed that many of them, 80% of them, have a disease called sitting disease. That is, they sit more than 6 hours per day, and typically most of them sit 10 to 15 hours a day because we are in Silicon Valley here in California. So the outline of the talk today is the chairman's curse. As a chairman sitting in our chair, we are cursed by the disease called sitting disease. So we are going to cover what is sitting disease, how it kills you, and why do we sit, and three-pronged research data on sitting disease, and solution for sitting disease, and finally, we all will stand up for a reason, for a good reason, to live longer. So first, what is the sitting disease? Sitting disease is a newly termed chronic disease in our society today, and that is specifically decrease in your metabolism or change in your metabolism by sitting more than 6 hours per day. It is a chronic disease that kills you, and so much so that every hour of sitting kills you 2 hours sooner. If you are in the medical profession like I am, there is even a billing code if you treat your patient for sitting disease. So let's look at this research of 2008 Vanderbilt University research done on 6,300 people, published in American Journal of Epidemiology. What they found is we sit while commuting to work, then we sit at work, we sit commuting back from work, and then finally come home and sit typically to eat our dinner and watching television, and on the average we sit 7.7 hours per day out of our 24 hours working hours, 24 hours of our time. And then so here is the further detail of how it kills you. 94% more likely chance of dying by sitting disease, and here is the statistics on that. This research again was published in the American Journal of Epidemiology, and women die more frequently by sitting disease compared to men. 94% more likely women die of sitting disease compared to 48% more men have a chance of dying due to sitting disease. That is, then if they sit more than 6 hours per day. So now let's ask the question, why do we sit? Our job wants us to sit, or we want to take load off. Is it not true? Wherever you go, you find a chair, and then if nothing else, you sit. In the waiting room, in the bus stand, I know you sit rather than stand. It's a common courtesy. Is it not true? When somebody comes to your room or your house, first thing you say, please be seated. Then we sit and drive. We sit to watch television. We sit to use our computer. We sit and play the video games. And most importantly, we have the habit of sitting when we use our telephone. And we sit to eat. We are now Homo sedentarius from Homo sapiens. From the caveman era, we evolved into agricultural era and finally sitting in a chair. Now, in the 20th century, we sit and work on the computer. So the computer has added to the chairman's curse of sitting disease. We sit and work. If you look at this picture, most of us sit and work with our back straight in 90-degree angle with the chair. Now the NEAT research, that the non-exercise activity thermogenesis research, tells us that instead, if you stand, you burn at least twice as much calories, and at least don't sit straight in 90-degree angle in your chair, because sitting a little bit reclined makes you to move a little more in your chair compared to just sitting straight in 90-degree angle. This is particularly important while you're driving as well. Many of us drive making our car seat pretty straight up in 90 degrees. Instead, if you slant it a little bit, you have a chance to be a little more active person while you are commuting. We sit and watch television. Most of us, because this is our recreation, when we go home, we watch television anywhere from 1 hour until 6 hours per day, even in the evening until you go to bed. And then with the remote control devices, you don't even get up from your seat to change your television channel. So we sit and watch television. Now here is a research. Again, this is a published medical research showing that more than 3 hours per day of watching your television increases your chance of dying progressively. So each extra hour of watching television decreases your longevity by 11%. We sit and eat. In the Eastern culture, like India, where I come from, we sit on the floor and eat. That's the old India. Now the westernized India, people sit in a chair and then eat their lunch or dinner. So sitting on the ground to eat is an active sitting, because you have to keep on changing your sitting posture in your 15, 20 or 30 minutes of eating ritual. If you look at the picture on the right, in the Western society, we sit in a chair and using the table, we sit and eat, thereby cutting down our activity, muscle activity as we are eating, and increasing our exposure to sitting disease. If you have been to Italy, if you go to coffee shops, if you sit and drink the coffee versus if you stand and drink your coffee, if the standing coffee costs you almost 50% less compared to sitting coffee. So if you go to some cafes in India, there is no sitting room at all, and you stand and drink your coffee, and you can compare, the difference in the body weight because the standing people versus sitting people in the coffee shops. If you go to Starbucks here in the United States, most people like to sit. Some people want to sit and use their computers while they are drinking their coffee. Now, unless you choose to stand, one of the standing desks that are available in Starbucks as well, and that is a simple solution for drinking your coffee and working on your computer while you are at Starbucks. Now let's look at the new science of sitting disease. We're going to cover epidemiological population-based studies and inactivity physiology-based studies and interventional research studies, and then altogether there are more than 10,000 studies on sitting disease. This is the eye-opener study. This was in 1953. Jeremy Morris did the study in London on the double-deckers. You know, some of you might have seen the double-deckers on Oxford Street and many of the main streets in London. And then the bus conductors who move around, not only at the lower deck, even go up and down upper and lower deck, they have 2 times less of a heart attack compared to bus drivers who are continuously sitting. So this is the eye-opener study. Now, this month, that's the May of 2016, May of 2016, we have this new research just came out from London, and they have a large study of 500,000 people, which is called UK Biobank. Easy to remember, BBB, British Biobank, one of the largest cohort studies of a short duration looking at the causes of chronic diseases. And what they found is the most recent, in the most recent publication, that is this month, that people who are active commuters like bicycle riders and walkers to work compared to inactive commuters like car drivers or sitting in a bus or a train, you know, the active commuters, their body mass index, BMI, and then their body fat percentage is on the average 3% less than the inactive commuters. In fact, the British Biobank is now doing the world's largest scan and MRI study focused on chronic diseases. So we will get more data about fat distribution as well in a couple of years from this study, again focusing on inactivity and sitting disease. This is the paradigm which is very new, which is called the paradigm of inactivity physiology, which was started in 2004 at Pennington Biomedical Research Institute located at Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Mark Hamilton is the leader of this group of researchers who study the physiology of inactivity. It is not a physiology of exercise and activity, it is the physiology of inactivity or being sedentary, and in other words, the sitting disease. So Dr. Hamilton found number of key findings, and some are listed here. Number one, electrical activity in the leg muscle shuts down the moment you sit down, and the calorie burning drops substantially. Most importantly, enzymes that help to break down your fat in your muscle and in your body, the enzyme activity drops 90%. And after 2 hours of sitting, good cholesterol or HDL drops 20%. And most importantly, after 24 hours, the insulin effectiveness drops 24%, increasing in your insulin resistance and pre-diabetes, diabetes, and obesity, and we call it as diabesity. So those who are interested in learn more about it, I urge you to visit the website of Pennington Biomedical Research Institute and read more about the inactive physiology and particularly work of Dr. Mark Hamilton. This is the bead counter. that the lipoprotein lipase is the most important enzyme to mobilize your fat, and that is the lipo means fat. And so when you sit and then you are decreasing the function of your lipoprotein lipase. Inactivity physiology research further clarified, published in the American Journal of Epidemiology in 2010, that is, sitting too much is distinct from not exercising enough. This is important because health may be improved beyond the expected in the majority of people in our society who do not exercise. Let me clarify this point. We see in our obesity clinic many people who have degenerative arthritis of their knee joints. They're not able to exercise, they're not able to walk much, but sure enough, they can stand. So standing alone is sufficient for them to double their metabolic activity. Another side of this fact is this: people who go to gym regularly, like a half an hour or even 1 hour of gym work per day, does not counter the damages of your sitting disease rest of the day. So here is an Annals of Internal Medicine paper showing sitting disease kills despite aerobic exercise. So now let me read that summary here. Sedentary life and its association with the risk for disease incidence, mortality, and hospitalization in adults, and it is a meta-analysis, again telling that sitting disease kills you despite your other aerobic activities. TV watching active couch potatoes is a new terminology. You all must have heard of the couch potato terminology. That is, the people sit in their couch and then are inactive, and that's the old terminology. The new terminology are the TV watching active couch potatoes. That is, they are couch potatoes. At the same time, they go to gym, they go to exercise, but still they are gaining weight, still they have diabetes and all the chronic diseases related to sitting. Do you sit and butt print? I got this slide from Dr. James Levine. By the way, Dr. James Levine is the pioneer researcher on the topic of NEAT. In fact, he coined the term NEAT. Now, this is the old type of chairs wherein you can see the butt print where you sit and don't move. There is even a terminology called computer butt. People who sit at the computer all day, their butt flattens up. And here, my daughter picked up this little humor here from the internet. I think my butt fell asleep. I even heard it snoring. Now let's look at the dangers. 7 ways you are sitting yourself to death. Let me go over these. That is, first, the increased risk of diabetes. As you all know, ever since the computers became part of our life, particularly since 1970 when microcomputers entered our daily life, diabetes and obesity incidence has increased all over the world, particularly so here in the United States and more so in California. Weaker bones, and you put more fat in your back, increased risk of heart disease, flabby abdomen, very tight hips, varicose veins, and increased risk of colon cancer, breast cancer, and so on. These are all dangers of sitting disease. So sitting increases the risk of death up to 40%. Sitting more than 6 hours per day makes you up to 40% likely to die within 15 years than someone compared to someone who sits less than 3 hours per day. You can look at the circle graph here, and the sitting 6 hours per day, and you can see low intensity physical activity, and then even the 0.7 hours per day of gym work does not compensate for it. This is the American Journal of Epidemiology graph I pulled out to show you that women, that the female gender, die more compared to men by the sitting disease. So if you look at your circle of your 24 hours a day, then on the left you have the sleep time, then you have chair time, television time, reading time, computer time, eating time, and then very little, 3 hours only, of active and standing time. Now let's look into the interventional research studies of Dr. James Levine. By the way, Dr. James Levine he's a British medical doctor who came to Mayo Clinic at Rochester, Minnesota, and did his multi-million dollar study on sitting disease. And then he coined the term NEAT. It's an acronym for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. In this slide, on the left side, you see this black, expensive underwear which picks up multiple channels of electrical and electronic data from your body as you're sitting versus standing, and particularly with the accelerometer technology that has become available in the recent years. And Dr. Levine has written 2 wonderful books besides hundreds of articles in the medical journals. If you are interested, you might want to read his book, Move a Little and Lose a Lot, is the first book, and his recent book is Get Up, Why Your Chair is Killing You and What You Can Do About It. Now, if you look at this graph, you see the basal metabolic rate, and then there is the thermic effect of food, which is the blue box here, then the physical activity on the top. Now, exercise versus a non-exercise activity. On the right side, you will see the sedentary individual has a very small NEAT box compared to a physically active individual has a very large NEAT box, meaning thereby they produce more activity by what we call as non-exercise activity. By the way, exercise in this context refers to volitional, programmed, scheduled work such as going for a walk, riding a bicycle, going to gym, and so or lifting your weights. Those are what we call in this context exercise. If you look at this graph here, that is again sitting all the way on the left, the moment you stand, you burn twice as much calorie. Simply standing and chewing the gum, you increase your caloric burn. Even simply fidgeting your body, increases the burn rate. Then stair climbing, walking at 1 mile per hour, 2 mile per hour, and 3 mile per hour. This walking at 1 mile and 2 mile per hour is particularly important because now we have treadmill desk available. And if you put your treadmill desk at a speed of 1 mile per hour or 2 mile per hour at the most, your focus on the task at hand is not displaced, but you are still able to focus on the task and burn calorie, which is much more than simple standing. Now we look at the neat interventional devices. Standing desk is universally available in the Silicon Valley now. Even in the cubicles where our computer workers work, standing desk is now allowed by the employers. Sometimes we have to write a doctor's note for it. By the way, if you want to buy these in today's market, the standing desk cost is anywhere between $500 and above. Then we have under the desk pedals. These are like gliders, the elliptical gliders. These are very inexpensive, like less than $100. Most importantly, the treadmill desk. The treadmill desk is what I use whenever I work on the computers at home. I go on my treadmill desk. And I put my treadmill desk 1 mile per hour and continuously walk on 1 mile per hour speed and do my computer work. Now this is again another explanation of sitting disease. Sitting disease affects your brain and brain orexin level. By the way, orexin makes you eat more. Anorexin or anorectic makes you not to eat much. So sitting disease automatically makes you eat more. Here is more of that graph showing as your sitting time increases, your orexin level increases as well. So sitting makes us fat. And here is the critical number, that is obese people sit 2.5 more hours per day compared to non-obese people. This is a magic number. 2.5 hours is the 150 minutes. That's a 60 minutes per hour times 2, 120. Another 30 minutes makes you 150 minutes. I gave you that mathematics because our basic goal in treating sitting disease is to decrease your sitting hour by 2.5 hours per day. Now you can see again here the same thing graphically explained, that the NEAT, your non-exercise activity time, if you increase it from 407 minutes in a day to 571 minutes in a day, you become obese. So the flip side of the coin is, if you decrease your sitting time by 150 minutes per day, you are going to counter your progressive obesity. Once again showing lean versus obese people, lie versus sit, how their calorie burn is changing. That is why in our obesity clinic, we have this slogan that is a NEAT. Lose weight by not exercising. What does that mean? Yes, it is called NEAT. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Basically, in a nutshell, it means to get off your butt and move. Not gym membership kind of move, but just good old-fashioned moving. Easy to do, easy not to do. Again showing low NEAT versus high NEAT. By the way, let's go back here. High NEAT, if you have high non-exercise activity thermogenesis during your working day, like Dr. Levine has shown, by the end of your working day, you have done equal to a marathon runner's calorie burn. So you can prevent your sitting disease. So what is the opposite of sitting? There are 5 opposites of sitting. Number 1, active sitting. This is important because, for example, as I showed you earlier, you can do active sitting on the floor, or in your chair, you can sit not in 90-degree angle, but recline a little bit so you are keeping on moving your legs and your rest of the body a little bit. Or active sitting, as I explained, while you're driving. Fidgeting, laughter yoga, standing, and moving. Let's look at the details. Active sitting, that is reclined at 135 degrees. By the way, when you ride in an aeroplane, you have the ability to increase the incline of your seat. If nothing else, increase the incline of your seat such a way that your legs are moving and your body is moving throughout your flight. Active sitting pedals, we already covered it. Active sitting on the floor. In many cultures, you squat. You squat to move your bowels in the morning. That increases your flexibility. Or you squat on the ground. Or you sit here like a pretzel. In many Indian cultures, even today, they sit and read. That is called active sitting simply because you cannot sit totally stationary more than a minute or two without changing your posture and moving your body. That automatically makes it as an active sitting. Fidgeting. If you look around, your friends and others who are fidgeting are thin compared to people who are non-fidgeters. Many cultures, like in Eastern cultures, even while you are listening to somebody who is talking, you are fidgeting, you're nodding your head, and so forth. But in our Western culture today, fidgeting is considered to be not much of a accepted social behavior. Laughter yoga, you might have heard of. Dr. Madan Kataria, who created this system called laughter yoga, that is laughing not for a joke or any amusement, but laughing deliberately for its own sake. And you burn more calories by this laughter yoga. By the way, May 5th, this month, is the World Laughter Day. More than 1 million people across the country through remote controls, television, and computers, and Hangout, Google, and so forth, they participate in the annual Laughter Yoga Day that was May 5th. Neat standing and moving, I already commented on that. A question often people ask is, when you stand or walk, are you decreasing your focus on the task at hand? That is, sometimes people say, is it incongruent, such as patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time, compared to the congruent, walk and chew the gum at the same time? Here is the answer. Standing and gentle walking does not take your focus on your task at hand. It is not like patting your head and rubbing your tummy. It is more like walking and chewing your gum at the same time. Here is the example I give. Does the cook make any mistake in cooking just because he's standing and cooking? Does the bank teller count the money wrong simply because he is or she is standing? Does the radiologist make any mistake in reading the x-ray while he is standing and reading the x-ray? Answer is no. Does the nurse make any mistake while charting in the hospital? Does the surgeon mess up his surgery because he is standing and doing surgery? The answer is no. So standing does not decrease your attention on the task at hand. Now they did a lot of research on calorie burn by standing or activity and learning. There are schools now and colleges where the students are standing or walking around as they are learning. So the more they burn, the better they learn. So what are the neat goals and tools? You measure, monitor, and modify. That is the 3M of overcoming the sitting disease. The minimum goal in our obesity clinic is to decrease your sitting time by 150 minutes per day. That is 10 minutes every hour or 3 minutes every 20 minutes. That's very easy to do. Every 20 minutes. Now there are a lot of tickler electronic gadgets that will flash something on your screen, or your watch will give you a little tickle. So every 20 minutes, if you stand for 3 minutes, that adds up to approximately 10 minutes per hour. And then at the end of the day, you have almost met your 2 hours of standing time. That is decreasing your sitting time by 2 hours. Here is a circular diagram to show out of the 15 hours of total sitting time where you spend those time, which I have already covered. That is, you drive to work, work at the computer, eating lunch, working on the computer, driving home. Even if you go to the strength training, then eat dinner, watch TV, and then bedtime. Then even if you have brisk walk, you still are sitting 15 hours out of your 24 hours. Measure, monitor, and modify is what I said earlier is our approach. How do you ask somebody to log their sitting time? You log their waking time, morning exercise time, breakfast time, transport time, work morning, afternoon, the transport time, TV time, and sleep time. We have devices now. One of the devices is called Groove, based on accelerometer technology that measures your sitting time versus standing time. We even have the Apple Watch that records your sitting time and standing time. So sitting is dangerous. Keep off your chair. Sitting for extended period of time will cause irreparable harm to your health. So how to get out of your chair alive? For many of us, sitting for 8 hours a day at our job is inevitable, but it is the extra sitting outside of your work that turns a serious problem very deadly. So we all stand up for a very good reason, and the good reason is to prolong our life and decrease, prevent, and reverse chronic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, cancer, and so forth. Here are the 3 most important or the lowest hanging fruits that we can capture to overcome our sitting disease. I made this slide, about a year ago. Now with let's look at the 3 situations, and I'll add the 4th one after I cover these 3 situations. First and foremost, telephone time. Whenever you talk on the telephone, if you make a cue dependent habit of standing and walking, or if you're at home, even walking around in the house and then using your telephone, you are increasing your need or decreasing your sitting time. Second is the computer. We all now have standing desk and treadmill desks. And the third, stand and watch television. That is the guilt-free way of watching television. These are the 3 lowest hanging fruits. The 4th one that I started teaching as of this month is your commuting time. The research, that is the British Biobank research, showed that people who use the bicycle for commuting burn more calories compared to simple walking, and that's because bicycle gives you the chance to increase and decrease the speed as you are commuting to work, while walking to work, most of us will walk at the same pace, and rather than increasing or decreasing the pace unless you deliberately do it to change your exercise value. So now we have 4 typical situations. The question my patients so often ask me, doctor, how can I be using your NEAT principle while I am driving? One principle I mentioned is make your car seat more inclined. Second, you can change your sitting from one butt to the other as you are driving, you can use your non-dominant, that is the non-gas pedal leg, and do some movement there. You can use your upper body in fidgeting, so these are the various ways how you can decrease your inactive commuting time. By the way, the British Biobank research showed that in the UK, 67% of the commuters are inactive commuters, that is sitting in a car or the bus or the train. So that is the last slide I have. Now let me ask Dr. Sherman, what should be our next part? Should we open up for any questions and answers?
Absolutely. It's time for people to ask any questions they have of you. Is everybody on mute?
Richard, you will unmute them, right?
Hi there. This is Amelia. I've got a question, and I was a little late, but thank you so much for this presentation. I'm curious if you would speak to the role of posture in this. So I've had a number of clients who went from sitting all day, and then they got all excited that their office offered to buy them a standing desk, and they went from sitting to not having the musculature to support their healthy alignment, and now they're locking their knees and they're sticking their hips forward, and they have back pain because they're standing all day. And obviously, ideally, they would like move, and I use balance boards and other things while standing to kind of get that variety. But if you incorporate alignment principles into your work.
The question is, does standing gives you any posture-related pain or disability or decrease in the function of your body? The answer is definitely no, because we are only shifting from sitting habit to standing habit. We human beings are made to stand on our own with our own back muscles, the posture muscles. But while you're going through this adaptation, yes, the alignment principle and then rehab principles, they are all useful. There are even electronic sensors to make you stand straight as opposed to slouching, or they giving you a functional kyphosis picture of standing. So standing, we human beings are made for, and that's what we recommend.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, my name is Lori, and I have a question about sitting on those exercise balls. Does that take care of the problem of sitting?
It's a very good question. That is, sitting on those exercise balls or the balls that are placed on your chair and then you sit on it. Answer is it helps to increase your NEAT or non-exercise activity thermogenesis, but not as effective as simple standing. And some people are uncomfortable with it, but because you are unstable sitting on a ball, then you keep on moving your leg. To that extent, you are increasing your activities.
Lori, did you have another question?
No, the only thing that I was thinking is I wish I could have my clients go back to watching regular television instead of Netflix, because then I could tell them to get up during the commercials. We don't have commercials anymore, so it's that's an interesting dilemma. Commercials are good, huh?
Well, commercials are good, but rather than commercial cued standing, we recommend always watch television standing only. Now that includes, some of us are not very comfortable standing without a support. You can support yourself touching a chair or some other furniture so that you're still getting the money's worth of the standing time.
Thank you.
Welcome.
There are a number of questions coming in on the chat line. And let me read you one of them. Does sitting disease theory apply to school children? Even preschoolers in many schools are being discouraged from fidgeting in a test score driven environment. Do you have advice for school teachers?
The answer is now it is accepted that the children moving around at school is preferred for better behavior of the children, and also for the value of countering the sitting disease. Now fidgeting in this culture, in the Western culture only, fidgeting is not considered as an acceptable social behavior, whereas in the Eastern culture, fidgeting is a part of the way of communication. And so this is the cultural stuff, and knowing that fidgeting is of value, I'm sure there could be, just like the fidgeters' right, people will end up fighting for fidgeters' right. So somebody is very nosy to find out, am I sitting right now or am I standing? It's a very good question, because this morning I told my staff I'm going to do this whole seminar standing. However, what happened in this particular room that I borrowed from my daughter, there is no standing desk. So truthfully, I'm sitting right now. Next question is, do isometric leg exercise while sitting compensate adequate for sitting? To an extent, yes, but the definition of non-exercise activity thermogenesis is more of the non-isometric exercise. But better than a simple stationary body, isometric exercise is fine as well. Okay, now there is an interesting question here. That is there additional power in standing while meditating? More specifically, standing still without moving during meditation. The answer is, meditation is a state of restful alertness. There, you want to decrease your sympathetic arousal, and standing slightly increases your sympathetic arousal. Thereby, it decreases your chance of entering the alpha theta meditative state. Having said that, you can train yourself by using specific standing postures and meditate. So part of the meditation, of all the meditative exercises you do, could be standing, because of mindfulness, which is one of the types of meditation, is paying attention to the sensory awareness of your present moment, and that can be done not only while standing, even while walking. Am I missing some questions,
Yes.
Richard?
Actually, they're up on your screen. One is, if you're walking faster than 1 mile an hour on the treadmill while reading or working, what does the research say happens to your mindfulness or ability to retain information, etc.?
It is an excellent question, and this is a focus of our work here as well. We have tested up to 2 miles per hour. Most people do not lose focus on the task at hand. And as you know, if you start jogging, a time comes at a speed of jogging where you no longer are able to develop a continuous conversation with another individual, because you can't focus on what is being said or what you're saying. Similarly, if you are doing let's say, you're doing a very, very fine work, such as diamond cutting. Perhaps that's not what you should do while you're walking at 1 mile per hour, per hour speed. But if you're counting money, if you're doing your Excel spreadsheet, by all means, you are equally powerful in your concentration power when you are walking at 1 mile per hour, or many of us at 2 miles per hour. So, by the way, the newer treadmills that are meant for treadmill desk have a motor that is specifically designed to run at 1 mile per hour for 8 hours at a time.
Okay, your next question is, do you have experience with whole, with whole body vibration systems or whole body vibration plates?
Yes. The question is, do we have experience with the whole body vibration? Yes, indeed, we have one in our office. We use it, for spot reduction of fat, by a laser, and after laser, we use the whole body vibration. The rule is this: the whole body vibration, number one, intensifies your burn rate, and then lipoprotein lipase activity rate, and most importantly, it increases your lymphatic flow. Having said that, many people cannot tolerate whole body vibration for a longer period of time due to previous surgery, or some of them are so sensitive they start having itching and then hives and so forth. So those of you who have such a gadget, it's perfectly all right to use it up to your tolerance.
Next, there's a comment by Amelia. I have standing, walking, balance.
I feel like I'm talking so much, by the way. I apologize. I'm just really excited by the topic. Or it's because I'm walking and I have a lot of brain activity.
Okay, that's good.
What Amelia is saying is that she has to do anything that requires real creativity. She has to sit down. She can't do all these other things. In other words, she
I like that.
Concentrate and move at the same time.
Well, you may do so, but the creativity is not continuous. Creativity is in impulses. So when you are having the creative impulse, you can sit down and then let go. Then you come back to your intense creativity again.
Okay. There's two questions coming up, and then that's going to be it. One is, does whole body vibration harm the brain meninges? Many of my clients complain of headaches after using the whole body vibrators at the gym.
Okay, that's an excellent question, because when we use our whole body vibration, we decrease the intensity of vibration. Imagine it's like shaking, with the longer latitude side to side versus shaking with the lesser latitude. If you have seen the movie called Concussion, if you shake your whole body, brain included, excessively, the brain is the most sensitive part that will have the concussion effect and then can cause brain damage.
Okay, last question. How often should children and young adults in schools be standing or moving per hour?
The answer is, based on Dr. James Levine research, our goal is the minimum standing of 10 minutes every hour. You can count it as 3 minutes every 20 minutes or 10 minutes every hour. And that is not cumulative at the end of the day. It is interspersed in every hour. Within that hour, you need 10 minutes of standing.
Okay, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhat. Let's hear a hand for Dr. Bhat.
Thank you.
Really appreciate this.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
And then if you have any more questions, you could send it. I'll be happy to answer.
And we have recorded this session, so I can get that to you if you need it. Okay, thank you for coming, everybody. And Lori Fisher, stay on. Everybody else, goodbye.